Hey everyone, Dumont Owen here. I'm so excited today because we have Ben Gioia back. And so many of, yeah, give him a big smile, Ben. So many of you asked me when we were having him back. So here he is. And Ben, who is, the last time he was here, we were talking about his program to where he teaches you how to write a book in as little as 5 weeks, write and publish a book in as little as 5 weeks. Um, but this time, Ben's going to do a workshop with us, and I am just so excited about it. Let me, first of all, for those of you who weren't here the last time and didn't get a chance to meet Ben, tell you a little bit about him. Ben is a three-time international best-selling author who trained, and I love this, millionaires at Stanford and helped a Fortune 100 company create a video game for their employees. And I think, 20,000 employees, as I remember. And he makes it look so easy, or he makes it easy for coaches, consultants, and speakers and small businesses like all of us on this call to get their book done in as little as 5 weeks. And once that's done, it's all about making an impact as a unique expert, enjoying that five-figure speaking fee, which sounds good to me, and getting clients and partners before your book is ever published. With 37 years of writing adventures, Ben helped launch the world's biggest magazine. And I bet if I asked, none of you would guess which one it is, but it's AARP, a fave by all of our seniors. And his teachings now are used by more than 50,000 people globally. So, Ben, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you aboard. And like I said, we got all kinds of requests to have you back. So,
Thank you.
so welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And hold on just a second.
Sure.
And so Ben, we are talking today about how to write someone's signature or how to write our signature story. We don't need to write someone else's. So, when you talked about hard earned wisdom and a mess to success, um, could you explain that a little bit? Could you go into a little bit more for me?
Sure. Thank you so much. So, Duman, it's an absolute pleasure to be back, and thank you for the invitation. It's always a blast to do this, and it was really fun for me after our last call together. That we had that opportunity to kind of sit down and think, okay, what else would be really great for your people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the signature story stuff just made perfect sense. I mean,
Oh, it absolutely does.
yeah, so extra excited to talk about that, and I use the terms hard-earned wisdom, mess to success, to describe the trajectory of one's signature story, right? So
Okay.
very often, whether it's our business or life or both, we go through some difficult experience or multiple different difficult
Hmm.
experiences, and then we have that opportunity to take the wisdom, if we've taken the
Ah,
wisdom, to take the wisdom and be able to share that with people. And
yeah.
often, at least I'll speak for myself, my hard-earned wisdom, and I have a few different examples of that, at least a few. I didn't ask for those, right?
Right.
But they came along, and the when I came to the other side of them, so to speak, kind of out the other side, saw the
Hmm.
light. Uh, I started putting into practice what I discovered, and started having conversations with people, and people were like, "Oh, how did you do that? Can you help me do that? Can you explain that a little bit more?" And
Hmm.
of course, right? Like,
Right.
how can I help? How can I help? And then after a little while, I started going, wait a minute, I think I could actually turn this into something and be able to get this story and get this wisdom into the hands of a lot of people. And
Hmm.
I think it's important to say here that we can't give somebody else wisdom, but we can really make kind of the path and the situation clear, and
Hmm.
at least in my estimation, make it as pain free as possible. And that's where I'm coming from with this whole approach.
Okay,
Um,
so excuse me, we're talking about your signature story and writing your signature story. How does that mess to success and, hard-earned wisdom, how does that translate into your signature story?
yeah, thank you. So it's pivotal to the story itself, and when we go through the steps a little bit later, I'll show exactly how that works. Um,
Okay.
but but the other part of it, kind of the deeper operator in all of this, is that
Hmm.
for people to say yes to us, like we want people to say yes to us,
Sure.
right? Like we don't want to persuade people to say yes to us. We don't want to strong arm people,
Right?
right? We want to invite them to say yes to us, by educating them, by helping them understand that, we understand them, whether
Yeah.
we've been through the experience they've been through, or, we've helped a bunch of people like them,
Hmm.
achieve the goals and overcome the challenges, things of that nature,
Hmm.
right? And if you Dumont, or anybody who's watching, listening, whether live or in recording, remember back in the day there was that book by Robert Cialdini called Influence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is an absolutely brilliant book, and it's not about manipulating people, it's about helping us understand why us humans say yes, why we say no, and it
Right.
helps us be more thoughtful, you know be more thoughtful in our thinking. Be a little redundant there, but really to think about, because there's so many psychological factors at play when people say yes to us, or can potentially say
Hmm.
yes to us, and the big ones, for our purposes, for marketing purposes, right? That we want people to know us or feel like they know us.
Hmm.
We want people to like us, right?
Definitely.
Yep. We want people to trust us, and we want people to see us as an authority, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All four of those.
Yeah, and there are a couple more. There's two more that Cialdini talks about. I'm not going to go into those today, reciprocity and consistency, because
Okay.
they're a little more deep and a little more subtle, and not really for our purposes today. But
Right.
but if you just think of the four, right? Know, like, trust, and authority. That's the stuff that helps people say yes, right? Like,
Right.
I don't want to say yes to somebody I don't like. I don't want to say yes to somebody I don't trust,
Right.
right? And I want
Yeah, both of those are biggies.
Yeah, and if I don't get the sense that they know what they're talking about, and if I'm not confident that they can help me get to the goal, or help me make great
Right.
progress to the goal, like I don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And I think, when we think about LinkedIn, I mean, we are all here to conduct business or I mean, we are here because of business. That's what this platform is about. And so that means that most of us, or many of us, are trying to find clients and trying to perhaps sell items or programs or services that are high ticket.
Hmm.
And the factors you just talked about are so important. They're not going to hand over, a huge consulting fee to someone they don't trust or like, have to see this person and they don't like them. So yeah, that's really important. And it just is something that we all have to pay attention to. And I know, and perhaps you can comment on this. I have gone through extensive periods of time when I would tell you I have no story. Um, it's just people ask me about my story, and I just kind of go, nothing too earth shaking there.
Hmm.
So what do you tell people like me when we tell you when we say that?
Yeah, thank you. So several answers. The first one is that I hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not uncommon for folks to think they don't have a story, or they don't have a relevant story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we dig in a little bit, and I say, well, when you work with clients, or you work with customers, and you're serving them, what kind of stories are you telling them about yourself, about your experience, about other clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
What stories, what case studies, do you have in your pocket that might be relevant? I mean, there are a lot of things that can function as a signature story,
Okay.
and you might have several. So think one of the biggest things is, what story is going to help your ideal client understand, right? The struggle that you went through, the challenges that you overcame, whether it's your own challenges or helping somebody else do it, right? But the your own challenges are even more powerful, right? Because then
Right.
it's that real sense of you. Um, but not only overcoming those challenges, but to help that person be able to see themselves in your experience, even if they never have anything remotely like the experience that you've had before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I. Oh, I'm
Yeah. Go
sorry.
ahead. No,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I a big story that I have is facing death in India. 4 times in 72 hours.
Four
Right?
times.
4 times in 72 hours. Yes.
What the heck happened?
Exactly. Yeah. So my bus almost going off a cliff, like
Oh,
literally, right, and then running from a wildfire, and then encountering the poisonous snake.
oh my God.
Yeah, and then encountering a mountain lion, right?
And what did you say? 72 hours?
72 hours. Yeah,
I'll bet that was a life changer there.
it was indeed. I mean, I've never had, that was really where, gratitude for life and that galvanizing experience to make, as big as an impact as I could, in however I could do it, right? However I could help people. That really, really came through. But, when I tell that story sometimes, people will be like, well, that never happened to me. And, right. And so what I've understood how to do and been doing over the years is really helped people to see themselves in my experience, right? Not so much for like what actually happened, but for the transformation that happened, for that that moment of terror and all,
Yeah.
right, and all of so really connecting to the common human experiences, the emotions, the dreams, the fears, whatever,
Mm,
and then the circumstances are just the circumstances, and I don't say just in a minimizing kind of way,
right.
right? But just
Right.
that that as long as we can, I mean, think about like, if you ever watch a great movie or a great show or read a fabulous book, and the person, the hero, the heroine, right? We need a
Yeah,
non-binary
right. I think we're
gender
all
word.
heroes these days.
Yeah, that you're really rooting for them and really feeling for them, and they could literally be existing on another planet, right? Depending on the
Right. Right.
story, and you're still in, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I get it. That kind of
So
thing.
is that because as human beings we have certain themes or needs or beliefs? I mean, are there things that are common to the entire human race?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and thank you for saying that. And actually, I talk a little bit about this in my books, in my influence with the heart books. Even I think I talk about it in my marketing with the heart book, which was my first book, right? There are common things, right? People want to be happy, right? People want to stop suffering or at least minimize their experience of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
right? People want to feel connection with other human beings, right? Like being part of the tribe, whatever that
Yeah.
tribe looks like, is so important. And
Or being banished from the tribe.
right. I mean
It's even,
that's a fear. That's a deep.
yeah.
I mean that's a limbic brain, lizard brain kind of fear right there,
Yeah.
right? And to have some sense of connection and knowing and understanding of their place, your place, my place, in this wacky world, in this
Yeah.
vast universe, right? To know that there's some kind of reason, even if you can't put words on the reason, but just to have that deeper knowing of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm I feel good enough being here, even though I have no clue what the hell's going on, because who really does, right?
Right, right, exactly. It reminds me of in my graduate work doing qualitative studies where you go in and you observe people as if you're an alien and just came to this planet and know nothing, which can be a heck of a lot of
That,
fun.
yeah, that's
but
just,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So tell me, Ben. I know you had this life changing experience in your life, and that it really changed things for you. So what can you say about your expertise, which is clearly in the writing publishing area, but also I find you tremendously inspirational.
Thank you.
So how has what you went through, how does that relate to story and what you're doing now?
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, we could talk for 2 hours just on that
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
right?
we've got to keep it moving.
Yeah, no, I love it. This is why I love talking to you, because like we talk about what we're going to talk about, and then, these other kinds of things emerge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna, I guess, back into my answer here. Stories are tremendously powerful, right? Like, not just your signature story, but stories are super duper powerful. For your book, for your talk, right? In any
hmm
kind of communication with another
hmm
human being, you want to use story, right? People like some level of fact and information, right? That's very
sure,
satisfying for the left side of the
yeah,
brain, right? But the story lands for that right brain, that creative, intuitive part, and
yeah,
being able to kind of go back and forth, almost like windshield wipers, right?
hmm
Drop a fact, tell a story,
hmm
give some
hmm
information, give an example, right? And the stories don't have to be huge. I mean, you can tell a story in the space of a tweet if you think about it, right?
yeah,
280 characters, you
absolutely.
can you can tell a story. You,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
What is, you may know this, I don't. There was someone who wrote what they called the briefest story ever written, and it was something about baby shoes for sale, never used,
uh, uh,
and that tells a story right there, you know,
totally.
such a
Yeah,
powerful one. And I
yeah,
have no idea who that was or where I heard
yeah.
it.
I can't remember, but there's actually a whole book, and I teach this as within my mastermind,
Uh-huh.
a whole book of 6 word stories,
Wow.
and some of them are absolutely mind blowing. Some of them are like, oh, that's a little obscure. I'm not quite sure where you're
Yeah,
at, right? And
yeah,
I'm not trying to knock anybody, but just the impressions, like how they hit. And some of them I just kind of went, right, like, wow.
yeah.
And how do you do that in 6 words? Well, apparently people do it, right?
Wow, I'm gonna have to look into that. That is so cool, man.
Yeah,
Okay, listen, we are going to end up sitting here and talking and just having this great time.
yeah.
But I really want you to get into and share with folks how to
Th-
write their signature story.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it would be my pleasure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen real quick, and
Okay.
I have a couple
And I
slides. Yeah, thank you. I have a couple slides to go through. Let me just
mhm.
press the right buttons here, and Demont, I want you to know, and I want everybody to know that I'm not going to kill you with slides here. Um, this is actually super duper important for the presentation itself, because before I teach you what I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you what I'm going to teach you by actually doing it. So,
Okay.
yeah, so
All right.
yeah, thank you. So this is called Hard-Earned Wisdom, Mess to Success, and your signature story, right? So true to form and what we've been saying so far, this is why we are here today. And I
hmm
promise that in our time together, you will discover how to bring your signature story to life, or at least one of them. Because, like we said before, you could have more than one. I have
Yeah.
several, and I use different ones depending on the audiences, the context,
That makes
that
sense.
that kind of thing. Yeah, and if you stay till the end, Dumont has this information as well. But I have this fabulous template of testimonials that
Yes.
I would love to gift to you. So if you've ever had that experience of, like, you ask somebody for a testimonial, whether it's your book, for your business, for your coaching program, like whatever it is, and one of two things happen: either they never get it done. I mean, they have great intentions, but they never get
Right.
it done, or they get it done and it's like absolute crap,
Yeah.
right? And no offense to the person who wrote
I
it.
like him. He's a good guy.
Right, exactly, exactly. And that's okay for one of your testimonials,
Right.
right? But you want results, you want
Right.
outcomes, that kind of stuff. So this testimonials template, you basically fill in the blanks for different kind of testimonials, and then you send them to somebody. Send a testimonial and be like, "Hey, I would love a testimonial for my book. I know you're super busy, right? Like, here's a copy of the book. Here's a pre-written testimonial. Please bless it or
Yeah.
edit it or write your own." And
Yeah.
9 times out
Yeah.
of 10, people will bless it, right? Because they want to help you, and if you've spoken the truth to them about your stuff, in a way that they would speak it as well, then they will happily give it back to you. So please,
Yeah, that
please,
really, yeah, that really overcomes that hesitancy because I know I've struggled with it sometimes. I want to give this person a really good testimonial, but I'm not quite sure it works the way it is. And and I also know that people really like it if you'll send a draft or something because so many of us, well, we don't have a lot of time.
mhm,
We're on, that's our situation these days. So I'll be
exactly.
quiet now and let you keep
No, no,
talking.
no. That's okay. No, jump in anytime. Um, so cool. So today will change your life, and if you can't stick around, you can always reach me at any point at influencewiththeheart.com/chat. My pleasure
And
to support you.
and I'm sending out this recording after this. Everybody will receive it. We'll send it out to our news list and everything. So,
Great, great. Thank you so much, Demont. I appreciate that, and thanks for taking care of your people in the way you do. That's super cool. So I want to give
aw,
you give you give you a quick snapshot of how I got here, right? So Dumont had ooh, I have funny exclamation points in my PDF. That's a little bit weird. So the surprises of technology
right.
sometimes. Yeah. So Dumont had Dumont, you had introduced me a little bit. So some of this may sound repetitious, but there is purpose here, right? So I'm a three-time international best-selling author of the With a Heart series, Marketing with a Heart, Influence with a Heart, and the Influence with a Heart method. Right, 37 years of writing and publishing adventures, launching the world's biggest magazine, training 100 millionaires at Stanford. After writing my book in 5 weeks, right, I promised them that I was going to show up with a book that I hadn't written, right, and I had actually had 3 weeks to write it and 3 weeks to produce it, and I got it done, right, and was super cool from that experience. The folks who hired me to speak at Stanford hired me for several more speaking gigs.
Yeah.
The folks in the audience hired me to come speak at their headquarters in Sydney, Australia, which was super
Wow.
cool. Yeah, and then the that last bullet point about helping a Fortune 100 company create this mindfulness and empathy video game, that
Yes.
also happened before my book was done, right?
Wow.
Because I was frantically writing the book, and I got a digital cover designed. I put it up on LinkedIn. Somebody reached out to me, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come write this curriculum for this video game?"
Wow. That
And I
is
was,
just,
oh, I
that's
know.
mind blowing.
It really is mind blowing, and especially at that point in my business and life, like I was really, just what's the word, bootstrapping, like you can't believe, and it was a coup. Like it really helped.
So
Um,
when you tell people they can do this with a book, you've actually been there.
yeah,
You
thank you.
wrote your book in not 5 weeks, but 3 weeks,
3 weeks.
and having such great results with from it are amazing. And so what I'm trying to get at here is you're not just telling people how to do this. This isn't something you've studied and come back. This is something you've lived, you know, experienced.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. That's a great way to articulate that. Yeah. And something that I've developed in the context just of my own business, in the last 12 years. I mean, I didn't figure out the book stuff until 9 years into being an entrepreneur. I was like, struggle, 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 this, okay, try, like that, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, the book stuff. But I,
Yeah,
but
cool.
I figured out the book stuff 2 years after this experience. Like it took me 2 years to go, oh my God, I could teach this, right?
Yeah,
So keep doing the things and don't be surprised when when the insights come through.
yeah,
Yeah.
great, fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. And one last little bit that I love to share because it was, such an honor to be able to do this. But, before I became an entrepreneur, I was working with the ALS Association, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. And, way back when nobody was really talking about mindfulness or meditation or anything like
Yeah.
that, I actually developed a program for the organization that was being used by people with ALS and their families and caregivers, which was super
Wow.
cool. Yeah, and they gave me an award for it, which was fun as well. So,
Yeah, but I mean, just what a contribution.
thank you. Yeah,
Thank you,
really,
Ben. That is that's very inspiring.
thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it was really, really an honor, and I got to create it with a person with ALS who, at, at yeah, at that point in his life, he could basically only move his eyes and bullfrog his cheeks,
Oh my gosh.
right? And check this out. He said that being diagnosed and living with ALS was the best thing that ever happened in his life because for the first time in his life he actually stopped and started being present with the world and life around him,
Wow.
and his happiness just went off the charts. And
Wow.
it didn't really matter that he couldn't move his body progressively over time. I'm not saying that it was easy, like I'm not,
Right, right.
but I mean that is a statement that is repeatedly attributed to him that still blows my mind.
It gives me chills.
Right, me too. Exactly that. So all this kind of good stuff, all these kind of successes, I've helped a bunch of people with their books. This Being Brown in a Black and White World, my
Mm.
client Anne Marie wrote this, and somebody at Google read her book. They invited her to Google to speak, which was super cool. Yeah, there's a book on here by one of, or not on here. There's a book that's not on here by one of my clients. She had an opportunity to speak at a global healthcare organization. Book
Wow.
wasn't even done yet,
Wow.
right? But we were able to negotiate a five-figure speaking fee, and
Wow.
a big part of that was because of the book, right? So leveraging
Yeah.
the book before it's done, leveraging the idea. I like to say to people, like, why wait till your book is published to make an impact, right? To get clients and to, do good with your business, right?
Yeah,
We don't have
yeah, and
time to wait.
I've heard you say that before, Ben, and but I never hear anybody else say it.
Gotcha.
And it makes a lot of sense. But I'd love to hear more as you go through as to how that works.
Yeah, thank you. Right, so blessed and honored to be able to help amazing people bring amazing books to the world, and and follow my method, and I follow my own method, which is why I can write books fast at this point and still
Right?
keep them high quality, right? But then it wasn't always like this, right? So hey, we're still thinking about signature story here, right? That's the
Sure. Yeah.
so really really important, and I'll break this down a little bit later, but very
Okay.
important for your signature story is you start with success, right?
Mm.
Today, hooray, all these great things. And then you let them know it wasn't always like this,
Ah.
right?
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you. So this is actually a picture from my second time in India, right? And this was at the tail end of, talk about mess to success, right? Like for, more than a decade. I mean, I've got 14 years. I was doing way too many drugs, right? And a little bit tricky because I had a good job, right? And I would
Mm.
get better jobs, and I would go to another company and this, and launch the AARP magazine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like I'm good, right? But there's the drugs, there's the drugs, there's the drugs, and sooner or later
Mm.
they catch up, right? so
Sure.
so I found my way to rock bottom, in a big way. And I remember stepping out of my office in San Francisco, and looking up at the sky and just saying, I want to be free, right? And I was like, well, what can I do to do that? And I realized, oh, I can go back to India, right? Because that first time I had almost died four times, or at least faced death four times. So it was like, wait a minute, let me go back there. I mean, there's not logic in that,
No,
right?
but
But
it's
yeah, something in my heart, some intuition,
for you. Yeah.
let me go back, right? So I went back, got my act together, started meditating, which really changed my life. Everybody please meditate. Thank you very much. Really, really important. But the other part of this was the debt, right? So I got my head
Mm.
together, I got my heart together, and then I was like, oh, I have zero assets. I have no property. I have $50,000 of credit card debt, right?
Yeah.
And I had to cash in my 401k several years before because I was out of money, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it was like, oh, what do I do? Right. So for me, my book changed everything, which was super cool. And it wasn't just the book, as I've described earlier in this program, but it was, the getting off drugs is a bonus, of
Yeah.
course, and having some kind of practice like meditation that helps helps you spend time in the present moment is an absolute game changer, right? Because in the stillness and in the silence, even if it doesn't seem so silent sometimes,
Hmm.
right? Like that's where the wisdom comes, that's where the intuition comes, that's where the magic really happens. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't meditate. My mind is too busy. Of course, your mind is too busy. Everybody's mind is too busy,
Yeah.
right? Like that's just like an easy excuse. And I'm not giving you a hard time when I say it's an easy excuse.
Right.
It's just all of us, that's where we go first. I can't do that. It's uncomfortable. Of course, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, right? Because we've never sat down, to try to be quiet. And as soon as we do, like our egos are like, no, you
Yeah.
know, worry about this, think about this, get mad at this person, think about that argument from 25 years ago, like all that stuff,
Right.
right?
Right. I've
So,
still got a couple of those in there.
right? You're telling me. Yeah. So my book changed everything, meditation changed everything, etc. And
Look at this.
as I was putting the book together, it brought these successes forward, right? So remember me mentioning the Stanford audience.
Yeah.
They invited me to come speak at Sydney, Australia the following year, right? So I got to be
Cool.
on stage to this huge room, and then the second day, I did it to a Chinese speaking audience through a translator, which was completely mind blowing. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just, hey, come do one speaking event. They're like, can you do a second event? I'm like, of course I can, right? Like,
People who speak a different language.
yeah, yeah. So these beautiful opportunities, and
Yeah.
really funny to like, see my name on a program, and they sold
Yeah.
tickets. Like when they invited me to speak, they didn't have the budget to do it because it was the end of the fiscal year. So they sold tickets to their own employees to
Wow.
fund my fee to come.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, how cool is that, right?
So much
And
dedication too.
yeah, right. And,
Seriously.
people who really care about
Yeah.
developing their business and, making an impact through, their kinds of ways. So really, really, really something. So that, that was a kind of quick version of what I like to call earning the right, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
sharing your story, that mess to success, that hard-earned wisdom, right? Not only sharing the story, but helping people understand that they can do that too, that they can, reach their own kind of version of that as well,
Wow.
right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So Dumont, what I'll do is I'll walk through the steps.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty easy, which is nice. I mean, it may take you a little while to, all readers, listeners, etc. It may
Yeah.
take a moment to suss it out. So you might not get it done today. I mean, chances are you're not going to get it done today, but take the lessons, take the understanding, right? Like what I really encourage is, of course, take notes, but don't like frantically try to write down everything that I'm saying. I mean, A, because there's going to be a recording available,
Right.
but B is that there's so much power in absorbing, the bigger picture of what we're doing here,
Okay.
because once you get it, it's going to change everything for you, which
Wow.
is super cool.
I'm ready.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, Jamon, you can use this too.
Yes, I can. Oh, I will. Not
Okay,
I can.
beautiful. So step one, which is exactly what I did a few minutes ago, you start by painting a picture, like a little snapshot of your successes today,
Hmm.
right, in your business or your life, right?
Hmm.
So, and a way you can phrase it however you want, but an example is, even though today I have all these kinds of successes,
Hmm.
I do this, I help people write a book in as little as 5 weeks and
Hmm.
publish and profit from
Hmm.
their book and blah, 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 like all those things. It wasn't always like this,
Hmm.
right? So start with
Hmm.
success and start with not just any old success, but start with the successes that are relevant to your audience,
Yeah.
right? What kind of things can you be the example of? What kind of things can you embody and share that people are like, I want to be like that. I can do that. And, especially like, if you understand that, like, I was a hot mess for so many years, like all the drugs, all the things, like, if I can do this, right?
Right.
Y'all can do
Right.
this like with one arm tied behind your back, right?
Right. Got
For
it.
real. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start in that kind of way, right? Whoops. And then you shift into the challenge, right? So you could
Mm-hmm.
say it wasn't always like this. You could say, but it was different back then,
Mm-hmm.
right? And get into the pain and challenge, and go deep on the challenge. Like, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment,
Okay.
but really make that pivot, right? So energetically, it's yeah, and it's like, but it always wasn't like this, right? And the audience kind of leans in. They're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of course
Mm-hmm.
not, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who do you know that is successful in their own way, who didn't struggle through something,
Right.
right? And
Right.
if you're alive right now,
Yeah.
you struggled through something and you overcame it, and you can probably teach people about it,
How to
or
do it.
or
Yeah.
use it to complement what you're teaching already, right?
Right.
So talk about the mess, talk about the low point, right? Be real, be true, paint a picture, right? Like, I was in the gutter, like whatever that looks
Mm-hmm.
like. I came across some beautiful quote, or beautiful concept. It was like, the best thing about hitting rock bottom, is the only place to go is up. It's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
right. So you can even say that in your
Yeah.
talk, or in your
Yeah.
signature talk, right? I'm giving you permission, right? So get in there, and get emotional, and if you're gonna cry, cry. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
don't weep, right? Because we don't have time for weeping at that moment. But like, bring it forth. Be true. Be vulnerable,
Yeah.
because people will see that in you, right? And people will get that, that human to human connection even more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful when that's in print or on video, because a lot of times, like, we're not in the same room together anymore,
Right.
right? So how do we evoke that experience, not as a persuasive, manipulative action, but as a way to connect from human to human,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately, that human wants to see this human, so that human can say yes to me, right? Like, that's
Oh,
what
got
we
it.
want.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
really, really important, right? Going back to the knowing, the liking, the
Right.
trust, the authority, like, all that stuff
Yeah.
is embedded in this process, which is really, really nice. Um,
That makes sense.
yeah. So step 4, out of the 5 steps, describe the moments when you saw the light, right?
Mm-hmm.
That pivotal moment when everything changed, or you knew it was about to change, right? Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, whatever
Yeah.
that thing is, what I talked about, the stepping outside and saying, just, I want to be free,
Yeah.
right? Something happened right in there, right? And it was like, okay. And it doesn't mean that, therefore it was fixed, right? I mean,
Right.
there's
Right.
there's a journey, right? But it's the energy and the experience of that journey is going to be very, very different for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're, moving up, shall we say, rather than finding your way down to the bottom, right? So you can call it an aha moment. You can describe it however you
Mm-hmm.
want to do it, but it wasn't until bam, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
suddenly, wow, right? The angels started singing, but
Right.
whatever that was, and just
Right.
as long as it's true for you, and you help your best people understand, speak to them in a way that makes sense to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, that's all you got to do, and then talk about the wisdom, right? That I started doing this, and things got a little bit better, and then a couple
Mm-hmm.
people started asking me, well, how did you do that? And a couple people, I told them, and a couple people more, and then I was like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
I could actually teach
Yeah.
this, or I could do this in a more formalized fashion, and then you basically come back to the successes, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning, you've come full circle, but you don't relist the successes. You basically focus on, so this is what I'm sharing, teaching, offering today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these
Mm-hmm.
days, I help people write a book in as little as 5 weeks that they're proud of, and I help
Yeah.
them um, attract clients and make an impact before they're even published.
Yeah.
I help them publish a book that they love, blah 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 blah, like all those kinds of things,
And those
right?
are all very clear, understandable things too.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Thank you. And yeah, and that sometimes I will adjust this, how I do my signature story, based on the audience,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So so yeah, so that's the nutshell right there, right? Paint the picture of success, right? Move
Mm-hmm.
into it was different back then, right? And
Yeah.
then go deep about the mess and the messiness and the difficulty, and be vulnerable, be truthful, right? And you don't have to reveal things that you want to keep private, right? Some people are like, but I don't want to, you don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
Right? Don't worry about that.
It's our
Tell
choice.
it's always your choice, 100% of the time,
Yeah.
right? Just talk about the things that are going to help your people, right? And you know keep private what you need to keep private, of course, right?
Sure.
Right? And then describe that moment where you saw the light, or that several moments, or whatever it is, right? And then talk about the journey back up into today, what you're doing, how you're helping people, how you're thriving, or how you're helping hundreds or thousands or whatever the number is, or dozens, whatever your number is, right? Of clients, of companies achieve these kind of outcomes, that lead to these kinds of successes, that have these kinds
Mm-hmm.
of impact in communities, in countries, in the world, whatever that is, right? So
Yeah.
that's the nugget right there,
Wow.
right?
That's. Oops. Here, let me.
Sorry. Oh, thank you. I thought I could do it
Yeah,
from
the
here.
stream. I guess not. There you go.
Thank you.
Um, Ben, that was so interesting, and you really shed some light on how to go about this, because I know, people talk about writing your signature story all the time, but it's how do you get it there, and how do you use it in a way that's going to provide people like what do I want to say, a roadmap, or a you know an idea that they can share. So, that really helps me understand what the process is. I can't wait to try this.
Oh wow.
Meanwhile, we've got some people here who are talking about stories, who have made comments, and one I believe that's Deborah Tudor.
Oh, hey Debbie.
Um, she's online, and she says, working with Ben has helped me focus on completing my book on time. So very cool. And then KD says, I definitely have a story that needs to be shared. So what would you say to her about sharing that story, or about how to get this off the ground?
Yeah. So KD, thank you for being here. So yes, you absolutely have a story to share, and I'm glad you recognize that. And I would say to start sharing it, right? And even if I mean, at some point, I invite you to sit down and go back through this process, because it's a great way to render your story. But even before then, just start sharing it, thinking about it, and think about how how you can best present it to the people that you serve, right? And when I say that, sometimes I will give that advice to people, or give that guidance to people, and then they're like, oh no, like I need to pick the best words and all those kind of things, and it's
Uh-huh.
like, give yourself a break. Really, really important. Tell the story, and just keep thinking about, or keep considering, who the audience is, and what you're trying to help them understand about you and about themselves, right? And ultimately, what what possibilities are you helping to engender in them, right? Now, this is kind of subtle, deep teaching. So everybody pay attention.
Yeah, no,
Right?
seriously.
um, so a lot of times when people are writing their books, this happens often with books, but it can happen in presentations. It can happen in, many arenas of sharing. Is that people will focus a lot on, giving information, giving guidance, giving value, right? So information, guidance, and value are fantastic, right? And you know, if y'all are like me, which I'm sure you are enough, that like we want to help people,
Right.
right? So and very often we want to help people, so we want to give a bunch of value, right? And then giving a bunch of value, giving too much value actually backfires, right? And
Mhm.
especially in the context of a book or presentations, it's like here's so much information, right? That either the reader, I'm just going to use a book for an easy example,
Mhm.
right? The reader's like, I can't deal with all the
Yeah.
information, right? And they, right, because there's not enough story, like I talked about before, there's not that balance, right?
Mhm.
Or you give some, information and value, or a bunch of information and value, and people get a false sense of closure. They're like, oh, I can do that by myself. I have so
Yeah.
much information, and it's like, well, maybe you can, or maybe you can somewhat, but to serve our people in the best possible ways, we want to invite them to take next steps with us,
Right.
because books are amazing for inspiration, sometimes for some level of transformation, of
Right.
course, but long-term lasting transformation, behavioral change, business transformation, that kind of stuff, that takes a minute
Yeah.
or two or a
Yeah, I was just
thousand,
thinking or
right?
two.
Yeah. So the summary statement, I guess, of all of that is that, if you think about your book, you think about your presentation, unless it's like, you're writing a textbook or doing a
Right.
very technical presentation,
Yeah.
your goal should be, should be careful with that word. May your goal be to inspire people and help them shift the
Mm.
disempowering beliefs that are keeping them from moving forward,
Mhm.
in and around the stuff that you offer, like not necessarily your offer, but people
Right.
think, oh, I could, my people are like, I could never write a book in 5 weeks, and then
Yeah.
I show them how they can do it, and they go, oh, right. So I've moved that, helped them move
Right.
from the disempowering to the empowering belief. So that's what
Right.
I want to invite everybody who's listening and catching this and recording to really, really take that home. Right? Don't, because you have plenty of time to give people information and teach them the stuff. Help them debunk the myths, help
Mhm.
them unravel the stuff that's keeping them stuck first, and then
Mhm.
change their lives from there.
Yeah, what you're saying, and what you said about story has me thinking about, and of course, I have a one-track mind, LinkedIn. Um, but I'm thinking about all the different ways that you could use story on LinkedIn, and how you could use that as a, something that would increase that know, like, and trust factor. And I'm thinking of the different mediums too, because some people are not writers. I get that question all the time. What do I do about content if I don't like to write?
Yep.
And I'm sure you get that too. And what do you say to someone who says that?
Dictate.
Ah,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, this is something I do with my writers, and encourage everyone and their mother to try this as well. Right? If you think about it, most of us, most of the time, right, we were taught how to write.
right.
So then we try to write, whether we're typing or writing. So we're trying to write, and we're trying to pick the right word, and we're trying to express our, and
Yeah.
right, all this judgment, all this, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, wait a minute, you're an expert in your stuff, I'm an expert in my stuff, we're all experts in our stuff. And when we teach, like we're in the groove, we're in the flow, we're not pausing to be like, is that the right word?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So
right.
so I'm a huge fan of dictation, and not just like, speaking, well, there's a time and a place to speak extemporaneously, and that's fine. But
yeah.
what I encourage folks is make a little outline on a piece of paper.
Uh-huh.
Like for whatever your topic is, let's say, at this moment,
Yeah.
like what, why should the reader or the viewer or the listener, like, why should they pay attention? Right?
Hmm.
Give them some context, give them some science or story or whatever, provides kind of the background to the
Hmm.
reason why. You know, give them a couple steps to take, even if it's as simple as like turn the page,
Yeah.
right? But or click here
Right.
or
Right.
follow me on LinkedIn, whatever that thing is, right? And then also give yourself some notes to help the reader, listener, viewer imagine, what's it going to be like in the future if they put it into practice? What's their life going to be like? Their relationships,
Hmm.
their health, like whatever relevant components of life, that will be impacting them. Like paint that picture,
Yeah.
right? And then you get
Yeah.
that all down on paper, and then you dictate, right? And 7 minutes, depending on your talking speed. So 7 minutes, I speak 1,500 words.
Okay.
Yeah, other folks maybe 1,000, 1,200, depending, right? But
Depending. Yeah.
but I mean, 1,500 words in 7 minutes.
There's
That's
an article.
that's an article. Yep, and that's 4% of a book,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then you start going, oh,
This works.
oh.
Yeah. And that really, well, it gives me hope actually, because as you know, I came out of higher ed. I think of myself as kind of a recovering academic here, and many of us refer to ourselves that way. And my biggest challenge in producing content has been that I want to do one of two things. One, I want to tell you everything about that topic. I want to give you the theory, the history, the whole thing. And who has time for that? Plus, I can't require that they do homework, so I've kind of lost that bit. But when I sit down to write, I get all those voices coming in, and I think part of that is that in academia, when you publish something, it's like saying, "Hey, everybody, come criticize what I just wrote."
Right.
And it's also that struggling for words that I do when I'm writing. And I can see where dictating would take some of that academia out and just be more honest and more forthright. And I've heard people say, and I'll ask you to comment on this, um, that you should write the way you speak.
Mm.
And so you agree with that?
I agree with that, and I think that's really difficult instruction to follow because you're sitting there trying to go, well, how do I actually write how I speak? Is this what I say? Is this the? And it's like,
Yeah.
why are you, like, stop giving yourself so much grief and just dictate it, right? And then go back later and do whatever appropriate editing or hand it to an
Yeah, clean it
editor.
up then.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Because I've noticed that I'm much happier doing video or something like that than I am writing. Writing becomes painful.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you saying that too, because if you think about a pyramid or at least a triangle, right? The kind of the top of the pyramid, if it's a video,
Yeah.
then as we cascade down the pyramid, like you can turn that into audio, you can get it
Mm,
transcribed, you can take that transcription and turn it into articles and posts and a
yeah.
bunch of tweets, right? Like, so much easier to start with video, right, and turn it into all this goodness rather than trying to work your way up the pyramid. And I know that doesn't
Yeah.
work for everybody all the time, like I get that. There
Sure.
are plenty of times where it's like, it might be a little faster for me to do a video, but I find myself writing.
Right.
Sometimes I do write.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
um,
Well, that's good to know, Ben.
yeah.
You're not here somebody playing Ben on
Right,
on
right, exactly.
on on LinkedIn. Well, listen, there are a couple more things I wanted to talk about here.
Please.
One is, and I'm Deborah, kind of said it all, and that you're helping her focus on completing her book. I'm wondering what comes after. If you can finish the book, or at least mostly finish. and you're ready to publish, how can you, or how can they position themselves, or set themselves up, for to be profitable with this? Because I don't think it's all about selling books. There's more to it than that. And I know that I've heard you talk about, and I'm trying to remember the exact words. It's publish, position, and profit, or
Yep.
position.
Yep.
Yeah, could you speak about that for a minute?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I have this event coming up. Actually, event isn't the right word. Deep dive is a much better word. So
Okay,
August 20th and 21st.
okay.
You can check it out at publishpositionandprofit.com, publishpositionandprofit.com.
And I'm
So
going to drop the link to that too. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that now while you're talking.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. So what we do on that weekend, and this is small group, like we don't have more than 20 people in the room. I mean, it's truly a deep
Mhm.
dive, is helping folks figure out, like, wherever they are with their book, even if it's just still an idea, to create a publishing roadmap, right? And to debunk a lot of the things around publishing that people don't understand,
Mhm.
really help folks think about the right ways to use their book, to leverage their book, and to wend their way through the wild west of publishing, because there's all sorts of, just like many industries, there's a lot of people out there who offer kind of half solutions, and oh yeah, well, if
Mhm.
you publish your book, everything's going to happen for you. It's like, no, right?
You still
Absolutely
have to
not.
do the work, huh?
You do, yeah, right. That Field of Dreams, right? Kevin Costner from back in the day.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. Absolutely not, right? I mean, if you're Oprah, sure, right? Like,
Right.
but
But
you know,
she had her struggles.
she did. She definitely
Yeah.
did. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. She's the
Talk
real
about a
deal.
story.
Yep. Yeah, you said it. You said it. Yeah, but kind of bouncing back real quick, Dumont, to what you were saying about about books, right? I encourage people. I mean, book sales are lovely, but why spend the time, money, and energy to try to sell 20,000 books, right? Because 20,000 books, maybe you can, royalties depending on the structure, maybe that's 100,000 bucks, and 100,000 bucks is lovely. Don't get me
Yeah, but that's
wrong.
not forever.
Right, right. But it's like, okay, I could do all of that, or I could use my book to develop relationships with 1 to 5 people, maybe 10, that can get me to that 100,000 bucks much, much faster.
Yeah.
And there's partnerships, there's relationships, they have audiences, right? That
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fortune 100 company that I worked with, right? I had an email list at that point of like 450 people, but my teachings got into the hands of 20,000 people because of that partnership, right?
Yeah.
And Dumont, do you know Susan Friedman? Have you?
I know of Susan
Yeah,
Friedman.
so
Yeah.
Susan Friedman, she got a consulting gig. This is several years ago. She got a consulting gig. The company bought books from her. Do you know how many books they bought from her?
No.
Half a million.
Oh my gosh.
500,000 books, like one or two decision makers, 500,000 books. Now,
Wow.
some results may vary, of course,
Yeah.
right? But even if somebody would, were to buy 500 books, even if you gave away 100 of your books and, included that in your
Sure.
speaking fee, like, this is how we get the leverage. This is how we make the impact. Otherwise we
Right.
sell a bunch of books. People skim, people scan, people don't read whole books. Do they take action? Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? So, don't futz around. Don't, the book is amazing. Use it right.
I think that is what we should draw as our final conclusion. And Ben, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you're the only person I've really heard talking about um, how to use your book in the process of creating it, or even before you're creating it, and how to use that to position yourself, because that's what it's all about, and that's what we're trying to figure out. And with over 840 million people on LinkedIn, it's not easy to stand out from the crowd. So What I'd like to do, I know that, and I don't know that we got a chance to talk about this, but the testimonial, we did talk about the
We
testimonial,
did. Yep.
so yes, I'm going to drop that. Um, I'm going to drop that link into, whoops, that's the wrong. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to drop that one in here too, so people will have it.
Thank you.
Everybody, Ben has promised me, I made him do this before I would even put him on. Ben has promised me that he will come back again.
Great.
Because everyone I've ever referred to you, or everyone who's ever heard you, through me, my reputation goes up, my just from knowing you. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Ben. This has once again just been amazing, and I, for one, am going to go and start on my signature story this afternoon. You have really inspired me. In fact, I was even taking notes here and jotting a few things down as you were talking. So, everyone. Keep an eye out. We will be sending you the follow-up information. If you want to be sure that you always have the information in the future, follow me or follow Ben. Katie, don't worry. I got one person saying she can't see the links. I will get them to you. Don't worry about it if they're not showing up for you. And that's that. On that note, I am going to say, we're concluding now because we are actually out of people's lunch hour. They should have been back a minute ago. So, listen, everyone, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
If you get the chance, go check out, well, no, not just if you get the chance, make a point of checking out Ben's program that he's offering in late August, because this is, I know because I've talked to some people who went through this. This is a powerful program, and I really encourage you to do it. And Ben will be coming back, so we'll keep you informed. So for right now, I'm saying this is Dumont Owen. Ta ta for now.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.